In 1974, a boy could leave the house with a dime warm in his fist and walk 3 blocks to the candy lady's window like he had business to handle. He was 7. Nobody drove him and nobody worried. That dime had a job, and he had a route past the barbershop, past the man hosing the sidewalk, past the old woman who knew his grandmother's name. He took his time, because a dime in 1974 was a decision no kid today gets to make. And the one thing that window gave him, the plainest thing, the thing he'd spend his life trying to taste again, is number 1 on this list. He was not unusual. On 1,000 corners in 1,000 cities, there was a boy just like him, a dime in his fist, headed for a window or a jar or a front room that smelled like sugar and cigarette smoke. We all had it. The store with the bell on the door. The candy lady, cheaper and closer than the store, who knew you by face. It looked like fun, and it was, but underneath was a whole neighborhood deciding a child should get to walk somewhere, spend his own money, and be watched the whole way. Then the stores closed. The penny became a quarter. The window went dark, and we called what replaced it an improvement. Number 14 was a fizzing powder they had to rename because grown folks swore it sounded like a drug. Number 8 was a candy bar named after a ball player, and one night in New York, thousands of them rained down out of the stands. And number 1, the one that ran that boy's whole summer, the one that turned a quarter into the coldest, sweetest thing a hot day ever handed him, is something no store has ever sold and never will. These were never just snacks. They were a child's first taste of choosing, of saving, of walking into the world with his own money and coming home with something that felt like treasure. This was not about candy. It was about a neighborhood that made room for a kid to be somebody, 1 dime at a time. Everything on this list, that boy knew by heart. Hit subscribe, and let's count down 25 corner store snacks black kids begged for in the 1970s that you can never buy again. Number 25. Candy cigarettes, the first grown-up thing a kid got to pretend to be. A white sugar stick, red-dipped tip, boxed like the real pack. You blew a puff of powdered sugar and felt 10 feet tall. For the boy, it was practicing manhood on the corner where the real men stood. A nickel a box until the country turned against selling kids a pretend habit. It was not just candy. It was a child practicing grown before the world rushed him. Number 24, space food sticks, the snack that came straight out of the space race. A chewy foil tube, chocolate, peanut butter, caramel, sold like an astronaut's ration. You ate one and felt bound for the moon. It put the future in a kid's hand for pocket change, in a decade with rockets on the brain. The original, in that silver wrapper, is long gone. It was not just a snack. It was a child eating tomorrow while the country looked up. Number 23. Wacky wafers. Flat, chalky, wildly sour discs in a paper sleeve. Watermelon, banana, apple, thin coins of sour sugar you snapped in half or ate whole walking home, and every kid fought over the red ones. For that boy, a roll was currency, what you broke off to stay in with the older kids. What came back later under the same name isn't the same thing, and the original's fans know it. It was not just candy, it was a dime's worth of pucker you'd trade a lunch for. Number 22, chum gum. The gum that cost less than everything, so it was always in the bag. Little pillow pieces, flavor gone in 90 seconds. A name nobody's said in 40 years. It rounded out a dime when you were a penny short of what you wanted. It sold a penny apiece everywhere, and today you can't buy one anywhere on earth. It was not just gum, it was proof. The last coin in your pocket still bought something. Number 21. Jolly Rancher Sticks. Before the little squares, there were the long ones. A single hard stick, fire cinnamon, watermelon, green apple that stripped the roof of your mouth, long enough to last the walk there and back. For the boy, one stick made a nickel outlast every kid on the porch. The long form vanished, and the wrapped squares that replaced it aren't the same childhood. It was not just a stick of candy. It was a kid learning the best things take a while. Number 20. Pop Rocks. The candy that exploded, and half the block swore it could kill you. A packet of crackling crystals you poured on your tongue and felt detonate. The dare every kid begged a dime for. It came in around 1975 with a myth already attached. Before the decade turned, it got yanked off every shelf in America while the grown folks argued. It was not just candy. It was the first time a snack felt like getting away with something. Number 19. Summit. The wafer bar that never survived the heat. 2 crisp wafers, peanuts, a thick coat of chocolate. More bar for your dime, but mush in a warm store. For that boy, it was a good thing he loved right until the day it disappeared without asking. Mars put it out in 1977 and pulled it before the next decade. It was not just a candy bar, it was a first lesson that some good things just do not last. Number 18. Choco Light. The chocolate bar that was mostly AIR, and better for it. Nestle packed it with pockets and crisp bits, so it crunched and dissolved instead of melting, a magic trick you could chew. It felt like more than a dime had any right to buy. It arrived at the top of the decade and didn't survive it. It was not just chocolate. It was a treat that punched above its price. Number 17. Fruit Stripe Gum. 5 stripes, 5 flavors, and a zebra you thought was your friend. The pack tasted like heaven for 1 minute before it went flat, and the wrappers had tattoos you wore all day. For the boy, the tattoo mattered more than the gum. A free mark you showed off on the walk back. It hung on longer than most here, until not long ago they stopped making it for good. It was not just gum. It was 1 minute of flavor and a tattoo you were proud of. Pattern break, modern comparison. In 1974, a kid who wanted a snack walked to a window and stood in front of a grown person who knew whose child he was. Today, he taps a screen, a stranger leaves a bag on the porch, and nobody watches him cross the street. We call that easier, and it is. But look what got traded. The walk, the window, the lady who fronted you gum when you came up short and said, "Tell your grandmother hello." We didn't make the candy easier to get. We took away the whole neighborhood attached to it. Number 16. Bazooka. A pink brick of gum you could barely chew, wrapped around a joke. Hard as a curb, flat in a minute. But the point was the comic. Bazooka Joe, the eye patch, a punchline, a prize you'd never save enough wrappers for. The comic was a story that came free with the gum, small enough to fit a penny. The gum survives, but the comic that made it worth the penny got retired years ago. It was not just gum, it was a free joke folded around a penny. Number 15. Now and Later. The taffy that tested your patience against your greed. Wrapped squares, apple, grape, cherry, hard as a rock at first, so you were supposed to save some for later, and no child ever did. For the boy, the game was the test. Could he make one square last past the corner? He never could. They still make them, but not for the price, not from a jar, not from a woman who knew your name. It was not just taffy, it was a kid learning later is the hardest word there is. Number 14, space dust. Pop rocks ground to a powder, and grown folks lost their minds. You poured it on your tongue and it fizzed into nothing, cheaper than the real thing, and for a summer, cooler. The name sounded too much like the evening news, so they renamed it and then let it die. It poured out of corner stores in the late 1970s and has never poured again. It was not just candy, it was a fizz that scared the adults and thrilled the block. Number 13, Bonomo Turkish Taffy. The bar you were told to smack against the sidewalk. A long slab of hard taffy, vanilla, chocolate, banana, strawberry, cracked on the concrete, then soft and stretchy in your mouth. For the boy, the smacking was the point, a snack you broke on the curb before the porch could share it. It came back smaller years later, but the slab you smashed in 1974 is a memory now. It was not just taffy, it was a treat a kid had to break before the block could split it. Number 12, Alexander the Grape. Grape candy back when it had its own name and its own crown. A box of hard grape rounds, sharp and sweet, born in the 70s with a purple cartoon king who made grape candy a coronation. A dime made you royalty on the walk home. Years later, they folded him into a lineup and turned him chewy, and the diehards say it's not the same. It was not just grape candy, it was a crown a kid could buy with pocket change. Number 11, Lemonhead. The sour ball that made your whole face fold in on itself. Round, yellow, a sweet shell over a sour shell over a hard center. And the game was to eat one without making the face, and you always made it. For the boy, the dare was losing it on purpose, in front of everybody, again and again. Still made the same way since 1962, but not from a jar for a penny apiece, and that store is gone. It was not just candy, it was a dare you kept losing on purpose. Pattern break, the one thing that ran through him. Here is the part of his story we've been circling. The last full summer before his family moved off that block, the boy didn't know it was the last one. He just knew the route, the bell on the store door, the barbershop fan, the candy lady's screen door, the pack of kids that peeled off one corner at a time as the streetlights came on. He knew the exact heat of a dime that had ridden 3 blocks in his fist. He knew he belonged to every window on that street the way every window belonged to him. He'd spend his life trying to describe that summer to people who had one just like it. He didn't know he was living the thing this whole list is made of. He just called it going to the store, and the biggest piece is still coming. It's number 1. Number 10, the 7-Up bar. 1 chocolate bar, 7 flavors, and you never knew which you'd get. It broke into 7 little pillows, mint, caramel, coconut, butterscotch, nougat. So 1 bar was 7 surprises at once. The fun was never knowing which one your tongue would find first. It ran for decades, but the name lost a fight with a soda company, and by the end of the 70s it was gone. It was not just a candy bar, it was 7 little surprises for the price of 1. Number 9, Chico Stick. The one that looked like a mistake and tasted like the best decision you ever made. An orange and yellow log, crunchy peanut butter inside, toasted coconut outside, that stuck in your teeth and cost almost nothing. For the boy, this was the cheap one he almost skipped every time, and the one he'd miss most. You can still find it, but not in that jar, not for that price, Not from that lady's front room. It was not just candy, it was the throwaway pick that turned out to be the keeper. Number 8. The Reggie Bar, a candy bar named after a ball player, and the whole city knew it. A round patty of caramel and peanuts under chocolate, out in 1978 when Reggie Jackson ruled New York. And on opening day, when he homered, the stands rained these bars onto the field. For a black kid, then, a candy named after a hero who looked like him and hit like that was no small thing. It was gone within a few years. It was not just a candy bar. For that kid, it was a hero he could hold in his hand. Number 7. The Marathon Bar. 8 inches of braided caramel and chocolate that took forever to finish. Mars printed a ruler on the wrapper so you could prove it was a full 8 inches, and that braid lasted a kid the whole walk home. For the boy, it was what you bought when you wanted your dime to walk home beside you. It ran from 1973 to 1981, then Mars pulled it, and nothing like it has been in a store since. It was not just a candy bar, it was a dime you could make last the length of the block. Number 6. Wax bottles. Little wax bottles full of colored syrup, and you ate the trash, too. You bit the top off, drank the mouthful of sweet syrup, then chewed the wax like gum until it was nothing. That was the whole lesson of a corner store childhood. You didn't waste one bit of a good thing. They still make a version, but the ones from that jar are their own gone thing. It was not just candy. It was a kid so unwilling to waste joy, he ate the bottle too. Number 5. Hot chips with the nacho cheese. The closest thing to a hot meal the candy lady sold. The spiciest chips she had, split down the side and drowned in a ladle of gooey orange cheese from her kitchen warmer. For the boy, that quarter meal was the block deciding, without a word, that he wouldn't go hungry on its watch. That was the candy lady being the whole grocery store from her own front room. It was not just chips. It was a neighborhood turning a quarter into care. Number 4. The dime bag from the jars. Not one candy, all of them, in a little brown paper bag. The whole art of it, pointing through the glass, 2 of these and 3 of the penny ones, while a grown man waited like your order mattered. For the boy, that bag was the first time he got to decide something and be trusted to decide it right. The jars were on every corner once, a penny or 2 apiece, and they're gone now, jars and pennies and all. It was not just a bag of candy, it was a child's first taste of being trusted to choose. Number 3. The hot pickle with a peppermint stick. The strangest, most perfect thing the candy lady ever handed a child. A big sour dill with a soft peppermint stick pushed down the middle so the sweet bled into the sour, a thing no factory made and no store stocked. It came out of southern kitchens carried north, a thing grandmothers taught daughters, sold for a quarter the 2 blocks from your door. For the boy, that pickle was her saying, "I made this for you kids and nobody else," and he ate it on her porch step while she watched the block. It was not just a pickle. It was a woman turning a quarter into something she made for the neighborhood's children on purpose. Number 2, whatever she had frozen when you came up short. The freeze pop she handed you for a nickel on the hottest day of the year. Kool-Aid frozen in a plastic sleeve, or a Huggy, or whatever she'd poured into the deep freezer that morning. You pushed it up from the bottom and it stained your mouth all day. On 1,000 blocks, when a child came up a coin short in the heat, the candy lady always had something cold and cheap. For the boy, That nickel pop was proof he'd never be turned away thirsty on his own street. It was not just a freeze pop, it was a promise, a whole block made to its children and kept. Number 1, the freeze cup. That's it. Kool-Aid frozen in a styrofoam cup, sold from her window for a quarter. The one thing this list has been circling since the first minute. Every other snack here was made in a factory and sold in a store, and one by one they died there. Not this one. The freeze cup was never a product. It was the candy lady, red Kool-Aid poured into a cup, frozen in her own deep freezer, handed out her own window to the children of her own block. That boy we started with bought his with a warm dime, ate it flipped upside down, working the sweet ice up from the bottom, on a curb, while the whole street kept half an eye on him. Every bar, every stick, every penny piece on this list was really just a piece of that one thing, a neighborhood that fed its children joy on purpose and gave back a whole childhood. He didn't know it was the greatest thing he'd ever be handed. He just called it a freeze cup. And that is the one you can never buy again, not because they stopped making it, but because you cannot buy her. You can't buy a window that knew your name, a block that watched you cross the street, or a lady who poured summer into a cup because she'd decided, without ever saying it, that you belonged to all of them. None of it needed money, a dime, a quarter, a penny rounded out with cheap gum. That was the price of the best economy a black child ever knew, a corner store that fronted you the difference, a candy lady who fed you when your money came up short, a whole street handing childhood out one piece at a time. We thought we were buying candy. We were buying our way into a village that had already decided we mattered. The stores are boarded up now, the windows dark, the quarter buys nothing, and a whole generation of those ladies has gone quiet. But that boy is grown, and on the hottest day of summer, he still catches himself wanting a freeze cup, the real one, from the real lady who knew his grandmother's name. They didn't give us an easy childhood. They gave us a better one. And most of us didn't say thank you until the window was already gone.